Hey everybody, it's Jay, and tonight I'm doing a video that is very happy and will be very upbeat. I'm sure everybody will like it, enjoy it, and there won't be any contradictory opinions. And this video is why I think drums are dumb, but I still keep buying them. Why do I keep buying this? I keep buying this. So drums have been in use now for quite some time, well over 100 years, and the popular drums in World War I, the very common ones, the ones that you hear most about, are things like the MP18. There was a drum magazine for the Luger. A short time after that, by the way, I'm going to gloss over a lot of these. Misha's really the history guy, I just don't have a great memory. A very short time after World War I, we had things like the Thompson, with its 50 and 100 round drums for the Thompson submachine gun. Very soon after that, we had the Suomi submachine gun, very popular in Finland during the Winter War, and the continuation war beyond that, and used very effectively. In more modern times, we've seen things like the RPD. This is not a feeding device at all. It's pretty much just a holder for the belt. Replaced then by the RPK, this being a Chinese-style, Korean-made drum. In fact, most of these drums on the table are Korean-made. So a lot of light machine gun use for the drum magazine. But beyond the Cold War era, pushing more into the 90s, and then now into the 2000s, drums have fallen off in popular military use. And I know that there are exceptions to that. I'm sure there are plenty of places still using drum magazines quite a lot. Again, not really, the point of this is not really so much the history, but we've seen more of a shift towards stick magazines. And the reason why we've seen a shift more towards stick magazine, this being a 40 round RPK magazine for the AES-10B, Romanian, is because, well, it's a few reasons. For one, drums have questionable reliability. They tend to fail during feeding. So, typically, stick mags with much less complicated spring systems and feeding devices in them and all that stuff tend to be a lot more reliable. The other thing is, they also tend to be a lot easier to load. So, it's much easier to load, trust me on this one, it is much easier to load one of these 40 round AK mags than it is to load this drum. This drum is the backloader type, so you drop the rounds in, but it gets even more complicated on these double stack style drums. Ammunition comes up into both, because you really have to utilize some type of loader. And again, I can tell you from experience that after some time, that thing starts getting real tough to load. Might be different on more expensive drums. Really, my experience is more with what you see on the table. But for the reasons that I just stated, I pretty much only stick with the cheap ones. And I rarely ever use them. And to be honest, if you gave me a choice of, say, 100 round AR drum, I should say, and 10 round stick mags, to be perfectly honest, I'm going to go with the 10 round stick mags every time, because they're so much easier to load, and really for reloading purposes, or for changing mags, it's definitely a lot faster to change out a mag in a 10 round stick mag than it is to clear a jam in a 100 round drum. So whenever I started thinking about this video and what I was going to do, basically I was going to start it off as basically just as a critique of drums and kind of why I don't really like them. And then I realized I have a butt ton of them. I have so many. And I had to try to think about, why do I have so many drum magazines if I don't even really care for them all that much? Well, for one, all of the drums that you see on this table, with the exception of this Thompson, this Auto Ordnance Thompson drum, which was obscenely expensive, almost embarrassingly so, but you need to have a Thompson with a drum, right? Is that they were all very cheap. So the most expensive drum on this table is this Korean AR-15 drum, was about $110. All the rest came from CD&N, Mostly bought on Black Friday sales, holiday sales, clearance sales, etc., etc. So, for example, this AK-74 drum was 90 bucks. This Mini 14 drum, for some reason, I've never even actually used it yet, but I have it, was like $60. You know, you have things like the Glock drum, which I bought on a Black Friday for 40 or 50 bucks. So, RPD is a little bit necessary, but again, you can buy these for $30, $40 with a belt, or at least I could at the time. So, I had to really think, why do I have so many drum magazines if I don't especially like them? And I realized that the answer is pretty simple. I have them because I can have them. Now, these were pretty cheap. If they were $300 or $400 a piece, I probably wouldn't have these as many as I do. But with them being fairly affordable, why not? And you know what? That's good enough justification to buy any of these. And I think that this thought process is pretty relevant right now, because I've been thinking a lot about justifications for things, particularly gun things. We've had a lot of people lately, elected officials, presidential hopefuls, and so on, say, why do you need a drum magazine? Why do you need a 30-round magazine? Why do you need a 10-round magazine? Why do you need a semi-automatic rifle, shotgun, pistol? Why do you need a pump-action shotgun? Why do you need a rifle that holds more than one round at a time? Why do you need a rifle at all? Why do you need a revolver? Everything that you need, you can get at a grocery store. Why do you need a gun? And you can see that the mentality here is a slippery slope one. The Second Amendment is not about need. You need water, you need food, you need air. That's pretty much it. So why do you need anything else? Why do you need the ability to say things about politicians you don't like or governments you don't like? Why do you don't need to say anything bad about a politician. You need water, you need food, you need air. That's it. So the Second Amendment is there. It's a check. It's a balance to make sure that you have the ability to uphold your freedom. Whether it be your right to live, your right to peace, whatever it happens to be. Your right to live in a world without tyranny. And that's why it's here. We live in a time where elected officials, presidential candidate hopefuls, are getting on television and not saying no one's going to take your guns. They're getting on television and saying, we're going to take your guns. We want to take your guns. And if you don't give them up, then we'll run an F-16 over your house. We'll drop nukes on American citizens if that's what it takes to bring you to heel. Elected officials are saying this. What job can you think of where it would be appropriate for an interviewee to walk in to the hiring manager and say, I'm not going to do this job. And not only am I not going to do this job, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill you. This is insanity to me. So, no, I don't need to justify having any of these. I don't need to justify having any gun that I have, because it's a protected right, and it's there for a reason. And the thing that disturbs me is not the question, why do you need these? It's the motivation of it. What is the motivation to drive an elected official to say, why do you need a gun? Why do you even need the Second Amendment? Don't you just not even need it? Well, what's the motivation? Is it public safety? You can't tell me it's public safety, because time and time again, any of the things that they've enacted have failed. They've proven to be fruitless, and yet they still persist. Why do they persist if it's not in the interest of public safety? Something to consider. And that's the thing that really bothers me about this conversation. I will say one thing that I'm grateful for is at least now they're being honest. They're being honest about the fact that they want to come take your guns and that they'll do anything they can to get them. So at least we know where people stand. So the question, again, why do you need these? It doesn't matter. If I want them, I should be able to buy them. And that's pretty much it. I didn't really intend for this video to turn political. I really was starting off with this basically just to kind of talk about the irrelevancy of drums in the modern era, and a little bit to cover my experience with these Korean drums, and honestly it's been pretty good. Some mixed reliability here and there, but it's a drum, it's to be expected. Maybe they get better with more price, but from what I've seen online it doesn't really seem like it does. But with the kind of climate that we're in right now, I couldn't help myself but to just dip a little bit into some of the politics of these. And kind of the position that I think we find ourselves in as Americans in the modern age. It's tenuous, guys. I mean, it's hanging on by a thread. And the only person that can really do anything to protect themselves is you, because the government's not going to do it for you. And that's just the truth of it. You know, fight for your rights. Get active, get involved. Put your money where your mouth is. Right? Call legislators, let them know where you stand, even if you don't think it does any good. Because we're in a very tenuous situation. Well, hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.